Hi team, this is a video about LinkedIn updates, one of the many fantastic sales tools that are afforded to you for completely free inside the LinkedIn platform. This is a follow-on from the post video. It's probably best if you look at that one first because ironically the updates are actually fantastic for following on from a post. And I'll explain to you a little bit more as we go through the rest of this movie. So let's just drill straight into it. So as you can probably see, and as you will see on your own LinkedIn access, so you get these news feeds of updates. This is what other people have put together for various updates, and as you can see, they come across in so many different shapes and sizes and styles and lots of different ways in which you can add an update and make it look different and display the message in which you really want to achieve from what it is in fact you're doing. Now, if I go back to the top here, maybe I should summarise a few core things really. There's really only a few reasons as to why you would want to in fact put an update together. The first reason is, of course, is just general marketing, just general awareness, advertising of a particular topic. The other reason would be is to in fact actually to back up a post that you've recently created and to drive interest towards it, and to support the thing that you're trying to say. Ultimately, you may also be wanting to quickly put out there some sort of association to some sort of market trend, or affiliate yourself with somebody else's post or update. But the way to perceive it is that an update is a very, very useful and versatile tool, and it is a little bit different to a post, in so much as you can't actually put in as much content as a post would afford you, but you absolutely have access to a number of other very, very useful tools which help permeate the update much further probably than a post is ever likely to be able to achieve. Now the thing is, there's a bit the reason why there's a trade-off is because with a post you're able to put together a lot of content. You're able to put lots of graphic rich in detail, lots of text, lots of quotes, lots of, you can go into quite a lot of detail and explain something and address a topic or a need quite specifically. But with an update, the sole function for an update is a very short and sharp message which people see straight away, and you have to be able to call them to your post and help them understand what you're trying to say incredibly swiftly, and that's what it's for really. Now, in doing that, what it does is it also enables you with some other functions to really help spread the word really quite far, and I'll show you an example of that very quickly. So if you see here, just on the top here, I put a post together a few days ago, and the title of it was A Brexit Supply Chain, and then I also completed an update with a similar topic and with a summary, a very short summary of the details I had in the post, and put that as a separate update. Now my post, well, we can go into the post. If we have a look at the post itself had a hit rate inside my network of 39 views in 7 days, and in fact if I select a year it is 39 in total. 39 views. Now if I go back to the home page, I can actually see that the update I did for the same topic had 323. Now there's a reason for that. The reason for that is because of these extra tools and the way in which updates work differently to posts. Posts only get published inside your connection group, your followers. So out of everybody that you post to, it's really only the people that have go out of their way to click on the post and open it that get to see it. Whereas with an update, it goes onto everybody's news feed, and this is the reason why you get a much higher, well, one of the reasons why you get a much higher hit rate. I'm going to show you some other reasons why you get a high hit rate now. So the way I can show you that is by in fact creating an update. So you do that by selecting this button here, share an update, Now you shouldn't be duped by this topic here. What's on your mind? Now, really, honestly, don't share what's on your mind. LinkedIn is not Facebook. It's not Facebook at all. It's not for private statuses. It's not for personal emotion. You have to remember that LinkedIn itself is a professional platform, and if it's utilised as such, can be incredibly powerful. Now, I mean, ultimately, this is the upcoming here. Looks like some private type posts, but what we really need to focus on is creating an update that actually has some business use for us, of course. So let's just take the scenario of wanting to put together an update that corroborates a post that I've already put together. So how about I comprise one similar to what I put before for the 323 views. So I'll just give it a title: Brexit supply chain. That's the call to action, and as I mentioned before in the previous video on posts, the call to action is very important. You have to assume, in fact, that people, of course, are not going to be even looking at your post. The majority of people are only going to see your update. So you need to make sure that your call to action, and not just your call to action, but your title is snappy and interesting and relevant, and something that's going to draw their attention. The smallest number of words you can use, the better. And also we can do this, we can also draw attention in with other techniques as well. Now, ultimately, one of the ways in which you can draw attention is, of course, to add an image. Now, you can do that by clicking the little landscape icon here. We'll use our standard sat image that I was mentioning before. You can add that in, and ultimately, by doing that, all you're doing is if we go down to somebody else's here as a good example, let's use this one for example. So this is what Samara has done. She's added in some text for her update and purely supplied an image. What she's done here, she's created a link, and this is her call to action. Very important actually, because the whole point of putting anything on LinkedIn at all is, of course, to generate interest and to drive people to communicate with us for sales process. So this is actually quite a basic update, and I can obviously show you how we do that there. So this would be our content, this is our image, and then obviously our call to action would be email us at ukSST.com. And ultimately we could put a web link in there as well. But in fairness, this setup is very much like this one below, this Samara's post. Now the thing is that Samara hasn't actually used the update function to its absolute maximum, because there are so many more tools that you have that can actually make this far more popular and viewed far many more times. So one of the things is by adding in a web link. Now the thing is, you'd think that just adding a web link in was just adding a web link in, and the user will just be able to click on it. But the update function on LinkedIn is actually much more comprehensive. So for the minute, I'm just going to remove this, and I'm going to remove this, and you'll see why in a second. So if I put in a web link, this is one I copied from earlier. So what I've done is I've used a web link from an external website. So this could be, for example, a third-party website that has a statement or a web page or some kind of content that corroborates or backs up what you're saying. Some kind of referral, some kind of solidarity to prove that what you're saying is relevant, what you're saying is in some way in the open market, rather than just something that you're trying to say. That's obviously quite beneficial, because you can associate that with the product or the relevant product or service that we have that fixes the problem, and then you can on top of that generate the call to action. Now the reason why this is so cool is because in LinkedIn updates, once you've pasted in your link to the web page, you can actually delete that from your update. And for example, you can add in another call to action with another web page. So, for example, Brexit supply chain, SAT have the solutions. See here at our web page, and then you can put R1 in, for example. Now, what that does is that enables the user to have access to two. They can click on this one for the corroboration, and they can call straight onto this for our link. Now that's powerful in two ways, because ultimately that's a double-pronged attack. You've got proof that your topic is in fact real. You have got some content to prove that you have a solution in place to resolve it, for example, and you have a call to action to be able to get people onto that. And of course, it's free text, so you can even go and also email us at uksatalbatross.com. So now you can see we're really starting to build up the amount of chances somebody can have to A, click on something that we want them to see, B, click on something that we want them to get to us. But also what you're doing is you're starting to spread the boundary as to how far this update is likely to go. Now the thing is that we can do that even more than this. So the way we can do that is by adding in links to companies and people within LinkedIn. So for example, I've written SAT here, but actually what I could do is I could write SAT Albatross, and there we go. Down here up comes the link to our company webpage. Now the thing is, that's great, because there may be people that I'm not connected to through LinkedIn, but which are following SAT Albatross's company webpage, LinkedIn page. Now by putting that link into LinkedIn, that means that those people can in fact now see my update, because it's associated to something they're following. Now that has huge importance, because that means that my update now has massive wings. It can absolutely fly, because I'm really starting to associate it with things that are outside my boundary, which of course brings me on to the next point, because you can put more than one in, you can put two. So here's another example. So how about I put something massive in like this? Let me put in a company like Apple, for example. Now of course the content of what I've put into this update is not really relevant, but the concept of what we're doing here is absolutely key, because now we've got a topic which has corroborated our point, our specific point, and how we have a USP that sells the solutions. We've spread the wings to not only the people in our own connections that would see that normally in their own update list and news feed, but we've also connected this with two company profiles for which people in LinkedIn are following. What that means is that if I hit share now, everybody who's following these companies will see that update, and for these reasons, this is why an update will get much more of a hit rate, number of views, than a post will. The only difference, of course, is that like I said before, you can't actually create too much content within the update itself. It is very restrictive. You can only really add, well actually let's see, I mean how many lines can you put in? I mean you can put in, I think, down to there. But the thing is that if you bear one thing in mind, perhaps we can use somebody else's update as an example. The problem is you don't really want to be putting too much up here, because ultimately you want people to get through the message and click through to getting in contact with you, or at least understanding your affiliation with other companies as swiftly as is physically possible. And if you put in too much text in that top bar, see, nobody does it, then they're not going to do that, because what happens is, on the update, is, here's a good example. James McLean has really actually failed quite badly here, because what he's done is he's got a photo of people that nobody knows, and also he's put far too much text in the top, more than 3 lines, and then you have to click to be able to see the rest. Now the problem is that if you put more than 3 lines in, and then on the 4th line is that's when you've put your call to action, that's when you've put your email address. For example, maybe I've put the email address and the web page there. I don't know, some more text here. Then when I click submit, I'm going to have that show more scenario. So the chances of people clicking through and then eventually getting in contact with you and driving the website and the email address are much, much lower. So even though you can add in all these lines of text and you can do whatever you like, I mean, it's entirely up to you, but I highly recommend to really not do that. Don't do that at all. Keep your updates short, succinct, and limited to 3 lines. Give it a very, very bulleted topic and make it relevant, and keep it not just relevant to you or to a single person, but maybe relevant to market conditions or something that is in the industry right now. Make sure that you stipulate what it is, or at least draw the attraction to why we're saying what we're saying, because we have a solution for this, and then of course link it to as many things as you possibly can. Now the thing is that you are restricted to only 2, because I think if I was to put in HTC, for example, it won't let me. See, if I put HTC, it won't let me link that to HTC. So if I delete Apple and I start typing in Apple again, or let's say HTC, ultimately, no, let's just go Apple again. Apple's a good example. So down here, if you saw before, I don't just necessarily have the function to just link it to companies, but I can also link it to people. Now the thing is that this is quite dangerous, because obviously everybody that comes up in the name that I type is the people that I'm connected with. Now I could be saying anything. I really could be saying anything. I could be saying Chris Appleby is the worst person in the world to trade with, and his company, whoever he works for, and then you type that company name in, maybe where this is horrific. Now that could be some really bad marketing for him, and ultimately that will look bad on us as well. So you have to be very careful about what you're saying and who you're linking with. And what I would suggest is that if you do want to put an update in where you're adding somebody's name in, then you ask for their permission beforehand, because that is, in fairness, a very, very, very important thing to be doing. Because, you know, I mean, I can link this to Robin. I could lie entirely. I could say, you know, Robin Knopf thinks that Allport is the best thing since sliced bread, not SAT. Dangerous. So just be careful with what you're doing, and make sure you use all these things very cleverly. Now, I mentioned before about linking things to posts. So ultimately, when you put your web link in, you can ultimately put the web link to your post in there, and that will then drive people to your post from your update. And if you're clever with, like I said, with all the linking to other companies, then you can try and drive the audience levels to your post to a higher level. Also, you may actually just want to put some sort of basic update in, a bit like this one below, you know, just an image. Now the thing is that ultimately you can only have an image or a web link in this box here. So if I was to select upload a photo, which you can do by clicking on here as well, this little image here, you can select that and it does the same function. If I show you, if I go select a photo and I select this image, what it will do is it will remove this link below and it will only have an image. Now the thing is that of course you may want to do that, but what I would say is that in all honesty, you're probably going to limit your chances and audience levels if you just put an image in here. So if this, for example, if this is the image that you want to be displaying to people, then perhaps actually the better way to do it would be to to provide a link instead to our web page, to our homepage. So if you type in the SAT homepage, then hopefully the SAT logo will come up there, and also that will also give somebody an extra place to click through to WebLink. Anyway, these are some powerful tools for the update, and when used in conjunction with the publisher post, you can really start to see how traction can be drawn with regard to driving people to seeing the fact that you can solve their problems, driving them to the company, driving them to you, and really become an industry leader by these two functions alone in LinkedIn. Now, you can track what's going on, not just by this summary header here, but if you go to your recent activity, you can actually see, if you go to published, if you go here, you can see all of the different posts and updates that have been put together, and it gives you a summary as to how many people have seen these and liked them and followed them or whatever. And it will show you the posts that you do, the updates you do as well. Also, probably worth noting at this point as well, followers. So there's a difference between followers and connections, because people who are not connected with you can still follow you, and you can do that by going into any person. So if I for example go into Steve, I type anyone's name, Steve Powell. I don't know who this guy is. Ultimately, I can click on, if I go to the little drop down here, I don't have to connect to him, but I can do the drop down and I can click follow, which means that anything that that Steve Powell publishes, I can see on my newsfeed without having to connect. So this is really quite powerful as well, because when you're using the standard LinkedIn, people may not accept to connect with you. They may not accept. You might request to connect with this person. I'll try and connect with Steve, but you might not have the various details in place. But the thing is that if you have the ability to follow Steve, then you can anything that he publishes or updates on his status will still pop up in your newsfeed. And that is a fantastic workaround to actually finding out whether Steve in fact has a need or a problem. Now Steve could in fact actually be a target customer of mine. I may want to follow or at least go after somebody that has that could be the managing director of a big company like Ben, for example. I mean, he's obviously in recruiting, but he may never accept my connection request, even if I have his email address or I'm affiliated with one of his friends. But just by being able to follow him, I might still be able to pick up on needs or demands or issues that Ben is feeling, and then I can in fact address those problems. So that's some header level information on updates and how to use them to your advantage. If there's anything else that you need, then please feel free to contact me, and more videos to follow.